Hello and welcome to another episode of Driven by Doing. Today we have a special guest from India joining us. It is none other than Mahavir Sharma from Jaipur, India. Mahavir, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Mahavir is the global chair in 2020 for the Indus Entrepreneurs, which is a non-profit based out of Silicon Valley. And he's a serial entrepreneur. He has started several businesses, and today we are going to learn from his story. So, Mahavir, once again, thanks for your time today, and please share your journey. It's been pleasure just to get to know about all the great things that you have been doing. So, tell us where you wanted to, how your story has began 3 decades ago, especially in the entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Yeah. I'll thank you, Venki, for having me. And I hope I can inspire a few people to become entrepreneurs and get the world going in the direction that it needs to go. So my journey, started off, like any other school-going kid wanting to become an engineer or a doctor, and I wanted to be an engineer. In India, IIT is big. I tried to give IIT. I was 2200 in the ranking. I was getting marine engineering, and I wanted chemical engineering, and I said no. I'll wait 1 year, I'll study in the local college, and then give the exam again next year and get chemical engineering. And lo and behold, I did not even get marine engineering the next year because, so I ended up just doing a science graduation in a local college in Jaipur after great schooling at a convent school in Jaipur. So I never went on to become an engineer. I was always very active, sports. I was a good athlete. I used to play cricket. I used to play basketball. And I represented my local college and local university in basketball. And my mother had started a small business of handmade carpets, and I figured I'll join her or not. But my father had just quit, got retired from his government job and came and started. And I did not get along with my father, and so I figured, no, it's not easy to live at home. I don't think I can join my parents' business. I think I should do and go out and work for a company. So I joined the company. I joined the company. I worked in the company for about 2 months. I wanted, and I did very well. I was, I think, overqualified for the job that I was doing, traveling across India, selling stuff. One fine day, I wanted 7 days off after 2 months in the job because there was one of my cousins was getting married, and I was very close to her, and I was refused, and I resigned and I walked away. And that's when I realized that I'm not cut out to be working for anyone. And that's when I started, and I can't work with my father either. So it was a challenging situation. Luck would have it, I was a good basketball player. There are summer camps in the US, there were foreign instructors. I gave an interview without telling anyone, and I was selected as at a summer camp in Pennsylvania, right where you are in the Poconos. And I ended up being there, in the late 80s, and that's where my journey started. I was so enamored by the U.S., and I posted 8 weeks of summer camp. We got 4 weeks to roam around. I was in New York, Boston. We went to upstate New York. And DC, and everyone. And right the East Coast we did the first year, and I was so impressed with the U.S. that I figured this is where I want to be. So I came back that year, finished my graduation, went again to the summer camp. As a higher person, and I right after the camp with my resume I started to, because I knew carpets, understood carpets, so I went to carpet dealers in the US right after that, and they finally gave me a job and also 10% commission on whatever I sell or whatever I save them from purchases in India, because I had a lot of history and knowledge on handmade rugs. And that's where my journey started. Working for them for about a year or two, I got an opportunity to buy them out. I bought them. I started my own business. I was in New York for 3 years, moved to Boston for the next 3 years. And for the next 6 years, I was importing, wholesaling, carpets, jewelry, name it what. And, that's where I became, from having left India with a one-way ticket given to me by my mother. I suddenly became a self-made entrepreneur, and I made a lot of money. As things would have it, I had to come back to India because I lost my mother. My brother was alone. I had to work, with my experience and, whatever. So that's when I came back to India with my learnings in the US, I started one business after the other. So from exporting handmade carpets to jewelry, to marketing, to branding, to doing multiple stuff until in about 2002, Thai, the Indus entrepreneurs came to Jaipur, and I became a reluctant, I was a successful entrepreneur doing very well in handicrafts, exports, imports, manufacturing. And, Thai showed me a different world altogether. And 5, 6 years were my learning years where I saw the bubble, bust, and the software companies doing very well. And I suddenly said, tech is the future. And then in 2009-10, when I was the president of Rajasthan, I suddenly realized that we need to start to invest as an angel investors, and there were angel networks that were coming around. And then, despite continuing to stay in the businesses that I am, or I still, we still do, I ended up becoming a angel investor. I started to understand technology. I had that basic, and that's where we are at, So I have multiple business. I've almost become an angel investor. I don't do day-to-day working, but I'm there on vision, mission, long-term planning, the direction, pivoting if required, fundraising, marketing, and branding. And that's what I do with all businesses, whether the older traditional businesses of handmade carpets, in which we're now retailing, wholesaling in India, in the US, manufacturing, jewelry, silver, so everything, and even the startups that I invest in. So that has just been my journey. And I have had lots of failures. I mean, don't get me wrong that everything sounds very nice and very progressive, but I have lost a lot of money. I've lost a lot of face. I've failed in things that I started, but it's okay. That's part of learning, and that's where I am. And in these 34 years of my entrepreneurial journey, I think I've become far more sensible, mature, or calmer. And I hope I can continue to inspire and invest in young, enterprising startups.
That's amazing, Mahavir. You shared a lot for our viewers just now. The whole story in just in just like a few minutes, and you started several businesses in the last 3 decades. And like you might have come across these businesses, or you had this insight in that industry that you wanted to explore more. So share us a little bit more about like how do you come up with these ideas of creating those businesses, because you have done it again and again. Yes, there are a lot of failures, and we have seen like a lot of entrepreneurs who are failing, but the next time they do it like 10x better. So tell us, walk through that strategy or the framework that you use whenever you start a new business.
So I personally feel that obviously I did not start off with thinking that I would do 10 different things. It just happened so. So because handmade carpets is something that my mother had a small factory that I had learned while growing up. So that was a natural thing that came to me, and that is what gave me roots in the US, as you saw. But then 91, 92, Iran-Iraq war, German unification, the rug industry went through a bad time. And then I realized that you should not depend on one business. What if Iran, there's embargo, there's all that stuff happening. And Jaipur is known for jewelry, for gemstones. And so I said, I think I should have two businesses, and they're easy to work with. They don't compete. So I started this second business and learned how to do gemstones. And I went into diamonds and colored stones, and I was importing that into Boston and wholesaling that in the US. So I was doing carpets and jewelries, both importing into the US. Suddenly, when I had to come back to India, and that was a setback, I figured I have all these people that I was competing with. Now they all know me. So I know what their selling price is. I know what their ethics and processes are. So they are my customers. So I started to so it was a natural progression from that to there. But then when internet in late 90s, early 2000 became an important thing, emails became very, very critical. So I figured that we need to have a technology backup for all the businesses that we have. We need to have good photographs. We need to have good presentations, etc. So in early 2000, we started this. It was in-house, and we started to create multiple stuffs on technology. So that's where the marketing, the branding, which has now gone into SEO, SMO, newspaper, printing. So all that was natural progression for that company. So while they are in-house for us, but they are now working for other companies too, because they have to survive. They have a team that needs work. So it eventually went to publishing, magazines, marketing, branding, all that happened. And that's where that company came in from our own internal needs. I was telling you about, Thai and, the impact of environment that everything will have. So we figured that we cannot be polluting the Mother Earth and carpets washing and dyeing and everything. So we need to have a very fully functional industrial area where we recycle. And, so that's where the industrial side of the real estate that we are doing has come up. So eventually one thing led to the other. And I think startups then gave me a new vision. And when I started to invest in 2013 onwards, especially education sector, fintech sector, I figured that the future of education, future of trading money and commodities is going to be technology. And that's what I wanted to learn. And no better way to learn, I've realized, is to other than to invest money into them, because I've learned on the field. I've never learned in the classroom. So it's just so happens that I have invested and I have learned so much, and I continue to learn and get inspired by all the youngsters that you can think of.
That's amazing. So you shared a lot of gems there, and you touched upon few things that I'm curious to learn more about. And especially you invested in the education space, and you also mentioned about fintech, and you mentioned what's the key skill that is required for entrepreneurs. It's actually learning in the field, right? It's not like something that you're going to learn in a classroom or in just a four-wall building, right? So for entrepreneurs, like we always see test and fail and learn. That's a process that we all need to go through. So, what are some of the tips that you would generally give to entrepreneurs who are just getting started or who are just thinking of becoming entrepreneurs and who might not even have an idea? What would you tell them to how to learn about entrepreneurship and how to go about that?
See, entrepreneurship is not being understanding numbers. It's not about knowing profit and loss and how to make money and unit economics. Entrepreneurship is far more than just profits and losses. Entrepreneurship is a mindset which, first and foremost, you got to start from within yourselves. You need to assess yourselves and see what you're capable of. You have to be very, very realistic about what you're worthy of or what you're capable of. You cannot just think that you are the best or you are the worst. Either ways, you have to be realistic. Once you have that, you need to understand your academic qualifications, your academic abilities, your natural abilities, and you should synergize the two and see the domain or the sector that makes you relevant rather than that. Once you have that sector identified, obviously you can't be doing everything and you're not good at everything anyways. So you find your team or your co-founders who you think who can be better than you. Let's say if I'm not a techie, I need someone to write codes, so I get a technology person. If I'm good at marketing and branding, I worry about sales myself, but then maybe I need to get someone for operations, someone for logistics, whatever. So what you need to build the right team. And you can't do that without you understanding what you are, without everyone having the skin in the game, everything on. So every entrepreneurial journey starts from within, assessing oneself, abilities, being realistic, being ready for the worst case scenario, building a team around the idea that you think you are the best fit or the sector or the domain that you're in. And then once you have a sector, domain, and a broad team, then you see in that sector what is it that you want to do, because education is such a vast field, health tech is such a vast field. You can't be doing everything that's relevant in 2019 that might not be relevant in 2022. So you really have to understand before you're ready and you launch in 5 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, what is it that you want to do? Where is the future heading? You have to think. So that is what I recommend, that people who've not yet become entrepreneurs, this is where they need to assess which is blockchain the future, is AI the future, is ML the future. If that future is something that I hold key to, if can I get that together and bring that into agriculture? I mean, these are all tools, as you know, but the sector that interests me, can I get that? So all that combination, permutations, team building, idea, your background, the country that you're from, what is needed where you are, what is not being served already, what can others not do. And you have to be very, very agile, very, very nimble. You have to be very, very fertile. And if you need to pivot, because you're in the long run, you're not here just because you want to solve a problem and it doesn't get solved, or someone solves it better than you run away. You do something else. You modify yourself. So all that has to be put in place from the word go, and it's a continuous process. And that's how what I would recommend startups or entrepreneurs to think today.
Great answer, Mahavir. And you talked about creating that entrepreneurial mindset, and it's a very long game, as you rightly mentioned. And we see a lot of startups fail because of the wrong team or just not fitting together in that, like, the for the vision that a founder might have created. And you touched
Mhm.
about building team around that vision, and you also talked about how entrepreneurs might think from the beginning regarding their sector they wanted to choose. Because one thing that we always see entrepreneurs, like, even investors asking entrepreneurs, like, why you are the right fit for this product. It's not just about product market fit, but also founder uh, product fit. Why is that, like, you are going to build this amazing product that can help people? So now my next question to you is, you absolutely exudes passion for, like, building entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial ecosystem, especially with Thai Global. Now we are seeing a lot of entrepreneurs coming out of tier 2, tier 3 cities across the world because of the technology. And you rightly mentioned about technology being the key going forward. So what are the things that people might think about when they think about technology? Because you talked about AI, ML, like, all these futuristic technologies and the sectors that people are super passionate about solving those key problems. So do you think, like, especially in the education space, are we in the right path to be able to, like, explore more, combining the technology and the sectors? You see what I'm saying? Like, how can education system create that kind of an ecosystem for even people to think about entrepreneurship? Because that's one thing that we feel like, there has to be a lot of work done, especially in the education systems in India and beyond.
I think it's changing. I think colleges in India these days don't just say 100% placement for the graduating class. I mean, they're very proud to say that their entrepreneurial cell or the e-cell has created so many self-employed people, or this startup or 5 startups were funded at our campus. So it's changing. It's changing very fast. I think startups getting funded, valuations are the buzzword. They're so exciting these days in India, at least. And I think that's a good sign, and that's all because of the ecosystem that has been generated. So I think, like it or not, education, offline education, for sure is changing, because everyone cannot be hired. More people who can create jobs uh, uh, have to come out of the colleges also. Online education, I think, and self-education, I think also are very, very critical. I think I think education mediums for kids who cannot afford to go to schools, who want to do self-learning, who cannot afford to pay for expensive schools, but they can sit at home and work at their own convenience. Languages, have easy, one-on-one teachings and video. So I think the technology will enable good education. I think we will have people that are ready and skilled. Previously in India, we used to be good academically. It was all theory. Now the actual skills, the knowledge, and most important, application of that theoretical knowledge into real life problems is what is being taught. What was missing when we went to school and college, or maybe when you went to college 10, 15 years ago. I think that has changed. And I think digital, the world, knowledge, the online education, from the Khan academies to the local people, and all these non-profits and philanthropic knowledges and lessons that we have really enabled students in remote areas. And language is no longer a barrier. Translations in regional languages, and India has so many of them, is not difficult. So I personally feel the transformation and educating the rural India, the tier 3, tier 4 city India, the widening at the horizon of knowledge of whatever the school can provide or the college can provide is something that education has brought, and that will continue to bring, in my opinion. I mean, I've invested in a few um, startups that are not into education, but they're skill upgradation, communications, how to present. Even if you are working in the hospitality sector, you need to be able to talk to your customer, how to do that, how to behave in an interview, how do you dress, how do you conduct yourselves, how do you sit or stand, ethics, morals, all these things are part of education, which we never thought they were. They were all part of our upbringing because of our parents, and we learned on the field and on ground and by people checking us. Now all of that is available, and there are tools available. So I think there's plethora of knowledge, tools, mediums available in addition to what is available offline. And I don't think geographies matter anymore. I think people can sit in China, India, and do a course in Harvard, and that's good enough for me, because it doesn't really matter. The only thing that's missing is offline networking or peer this thing, which I think eventually will change or will work around. But I think its knowledge will get transported across the globe.
Absolutely. So my next question to you is, you invested in a lot of startups, and what are the factors that you consider while making an investment decision? So there are a lot of things we hear from, especially investors, that they have a checklist or a thesis about investing in startups. So what is your checklist or thesis when you come across founders who bring up these visions when you're planning
I'll
to
tell you.
invest in them?
I'll tell you something. Um, I've heard people say there's a checklist. I've heard people say that they grade everything, and if something is above an 8, they would invest. For me, everything is very important. The team, the solution, the timing, the success of the business model, the unit economics, um, and the market, the competition. I can name 15, 20 things. Everything is important. If one thing I find a glitch or a doubt, and if I see that glitch cannot be overcome with the present scenario, present team, present solution, and if the team is not competent enough to do that, I wouldn't invest. So it's very, very critical, in my opinion, that everything has to be aligned for it to work. No startup can succeed if it's not a win-win situation. I, if WhatsApp, when it came to me when it was launched, came to me today, I would not invest. No one would invest, because now unit economics, commercials are very, very critical. It's not just the numbers and downloads and the outreach, which is good. But the fact that there is so much happening on the social media and on messages and messengers and so much, it's very critical that someone has to be really, really out of the box for us to be able to think that this person. So it's very, very minute. It's a lot of experience. It's a lot of what's happening across the world. Seeking opinions from experts in that domain is also very critical. Validating, verifying with their existing customers some sort of point, POC traction, growth month on month, a marketing strategy that is not expensive or not very difficult to conduct. All those things, everything matters in my book. And if I see something is not working or something might not work, irrespective of the future of success, and I could be wrong, I tend to stay away from it. So for me, everything has to fall in place, honestly.
That's great, because that's a great insight, just to get to know how entrepreneurs who have created businesses and now investing think, because they kind of know everything that falls into creating a successful business. Do you think that is one of the main advantages when you're looking at startups, because you have worked on so many businesses, that gives you an edge to actually look at a team and tell, hey, this is going to be a successful team based on, yes, they could do a lot of things right today, but will they be successful in the future?
Yeah, so it's a lot of experience. I agree, but it's not that I've not gone wrong. I mean, I've lost money that I have invested in great ideas and great teams and great startups, but that was all part of learning. I personally feel that if the team is good, they will sooner or later pivot. They will sooner or later succeed. They will work hard, and they are not depending on just you, but they're hardworking kids, and that's one thing that's always worked for me. And I think a lot of it comes from experience. I mean, I'll tell you some simple examples. I mean, I've had great people, great team, great ideas come and pitch to me, and sometimes they go overboard they oversell themselves. We are a great team. I'm from IIT, I am MIT, Harvard, whatever. And then I have this idea, it's patent pending and no one else has it. Great. So why are you just making 100% profit, and why not 500% profit? I mean, if you have a unique idea and no one has it, you don't need money, sir. You can make much more money. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to understand that I prefer teams and who are realistic, that this is as far as we can go. This is what we bring to the table, but we are lacking this, and that's why we need to onboard. We need to spend money on marketing. We need to onboard more technology. We need to backward integrate on production, or we need to forward integrate into markets in the US. And whatever that is, you have to be very, very realistic in what you can do, what your idea can do, what your education, what your experience in previous companies and the product can do. But why are you coming to me as an investor? Is because you know that this money will get you what you don't have. So be realistic and mention that when you are pitching. So that gives the person a comfort as to where that is. And you can't just say that I'm valued at 20 million and I've not had one single penny coming to me as revenue. You need to have justifiable reason. Just because you want to be 20 million, you don't become 20 million. So you really need to have your maths in place, your abilities in place, and they have to match and they have to sync. Otherwise, we as investors can smell the rat very easily, and it's not a difficult thing to do, because sometimes the maths does not add up. Sometimes the projections don't add up. Sometimes the due diligence on the past does not add up. Sometimes your revenues or your GMV and your net profit, your unit economics, they don't add up. So you can't hide anything in this world. It's a full disclosure. So you really have to be very, very clear about your business. You have to be communicating it well. You have to be realistic when you communicate. Your valuations, your ask should be in sync with what you need, not undervalued or overvalued, not exaggerated for sure.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs who are listening to this show today, or just like seeing this video interview, I think they'll definitely take away a lot of great insights, Mahavir. So my next question, or just moving on to the next part, now coming on to learning more about Thai, and you are leading this organization from last year around the world. So tell us a little bit more about Thai and how it is helping entrepreneurs from around the world to build these ecosystems.
Well, a little bit of disclosure. I mean, I was heading Thai globally in 2020. My term got over in January 21. It's a one-year term, and I did that. But I'm still associated with Thai. I still love Thai. I still, an ambassador on whatever it does. So Thai is a great organization. I mean, and I'll tell you why it's a great organization, because it's an organization of volunteers. It doesn't work on people who are working behind the scenes, paid, salaried people. It works with people like us who are giving their time, energy, money pro bono. We invest in what we mentor. We are absolutely the flag bearers of entrepreneurship from each level to each level. And it's not just me. There are hundreds like me across the globe. There are 60 some chapters. We've been around for 1992 to now 28, 29 years now. And we have absolutely impacted. So we have a program that goes to schools, which is called the TYE. There's a Thai University program, which goes to colleges and universities. There's a Thai Women's program, which works with women entrepreneurs as founders or co-founders. There's a Thai Access program, which works with the underprivileged people across the globe who want to be entrepreneurs. There is an angel program across the globe where we invest in startups. And all of these are building your skills of entrepreneurship through business plans, through competitions, through mentoring, through classroom sessions, through network, through various modules that work at the chapter level, at the country level, and at the global level. So it gives you all of that education, all of that networking, all of that impact where we invest in school pass out finalists or university finalists or women entrepreneurs or in, all these people, because we believe that they have done what they need to do and they need to be encouraged, and we don't care because it's part of our agenda. And it's many, many people across the globe who are doing all of this with probably a very, so we probably TIE Global has a total staff of about 100 people across the globe with 13,000 members. I mean, and we have probably have about 40 to 50 um, now virtual programs, but otherwise physical programs per week. So imagine 100 people delivering 40 to 50 things per week, programs, learnings, competitions, etc., with and serving 13,000 members. That's a very, very low per capita, investment for a great output and impact that we have had across in the last 28, 29 years. So I think it's a great organization. Everyone has a free, it's obviously very democratic. It's very, very simple. If you're given time, if you're given shared knowledge, you become what you become. Imagine someone like me coming from a traditional businesses and an angel investor in India to lead the global organization, whereas everything sits in Silicon Valley, Boston, and whatnot. So I think it's a great organization, and I think it has proven not once but many times in the last few years. So I'm very positive, and it's probably the only organization that's connected globally, wanting to give back. It's not just about networking like other organizations are.
That's amazing. I think we have seen how TIE has been doing some amazing work around the world, helping entrepreneurs to learn and create that mindset, which is the key to build those great companies all around the world. And you talked about TIE working to empower women, because that is one area that, like, we are seeing across the globe, a lot of women entrepreneurs are coming up with great solutions. And a lot of times we hear things like women entrepreneurs getting less investments when compared to the other counterparts. What do you think can actually help women entrepreneurs from around the world who are starting to think about coming into entrepreneurship and building products?
Yeah, so that's the unfortunate part. I think the misnomers about women being non-tech uh, um, people, misnomers about men going to more engineering colleges and all startups being technology based are now being broken. I mean, it's not just the technology. Technology can be paid for and bought. Medical sciences, biomedical sciences, investments in the medicine field where lots of women scientists are part of is one critical element that has changed. Women are now loving engineering and technology and coding and blockchain and whatnot. So I think that's something that's gone. Secondly, investors. So there's a pipeline of people who have founders and co-founders as women. We as investors always thought, oh, women, she'll get married, her priorities will be her children. So that has also changed. I think with um, men taking the lead at home, women driving families are a fact today. They're the earning members, and men are happy to be doing stuff or equally partnering in upbringing of their children and taking the ambitions of a woman. And I think being an entrepreneur is very, very good, rather than working from a 9 to 5 5-day job for a woman as a mother, as a wife, as a whatever. It's far more non-flexible than working as an entrepreneur. You can work late at night, you can work anywhere, and this pandemic has shown us that work from home is the best thing and the easiest thing that one can do. And now this has really impacted everything. So the investor's mindset is changing. I don't judge just because there's a women entrepreneur. We don't ask, back 10 years ago, 8 years ago, it used to cross everyone's mind, but not anymore. And I think that has changed. And I think that's what we're trying to re-emphasize, reinforce. and work with people and encourage people. And I think that's where marketing and outreach of the Thai Women program to encourage women to start off, to look at funding, to look at startups, to work with their male co-founders or female co-founders and to grow. And there is ample opportunity, ample funding. And I personally, in my opinion, and I have invested both in male and female um, uh, co-founder startups, I find women far more organized and far more sincere than men. You know, men sometimes tend to um, over promise and under deliver, in my opinion. And the women are far better at all of that. And I think that's where certain roles, and especially many startups that I have CEOs as women, are doing much better than their male counterpart investor startups. And I'm very happy and proud of that.
That's amazing. It's great to see how, like, your insights around women empowerment, especially in the entrepreneurship space. So one last question to you is, what is the best advice that you received while you're starting your entrepreneurial journey years ago?
Ah, oh boy, no, that's a difficult question. What is the best advice that I have? So I mean, it is an advice which I said was a realistic part. I mean, I'm a very passionate person, and I take quick decisions, and I go by impulse, and I'm very impulsive. Um, but I was told that, maybe a pause, a break. I mean, you can go with the first thing that came to your mind, but don't blurb it out. Sleep over it, wait for a couple of days. And that has always, I think, paid me well. I think that has worked well with me. And I have actually not changed my decision, but I have put it in better words, in a far neutral tone. Even if I was angry with someone, I did not have to be angry, because I took time to decide why would I not invest in that. And so that has, by experience, made me easier for me to work with. And many people used to check. I mean, I mean, quite honestly, it has helped me a lot, because people love the energy, people love the positivity, the smile, the enthusiasm and passion. But still, down the line, if you're calm from within inside, and that you've given it the thought at the back of your mind before you say things with equal passion and energy, I think it's a little shade better in short-term and long-term relationship with the startup, or with your business partners, or your customers, or your suppliers, whatever the case may be.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing one more great advice, Mahavir. It's been a pleasure talking to you and gaining great insights by just seeing from the other side, like, from an investor's angle,
Sure.
and who has done and built wonderful businesses for over 3 decades now. And is there any final words that you wanted to share with our audience
No,
today?
I keep on continuing to blurb whatever comes to my mind. I'm never prepared for any question. I love giving spontaneous answers. I hope people can make sense of it. I hope people can draw positivities and learnings from it, and add to whatever they are capable of doing. I hope this works well, and I would love to have a feedback from you, Venki, once this is on air. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure once again. Thanks again for coming onto the show.
Pleasure. Thank you.